We're now streaming.
We are now live with the Parent Exchange and welcome everyone. This is a special, I guess, Independence Day edition of the Parent Exchange. We decided to do it a little early because a lot of people are going to get away tomorrow on Friday for the holiday weekend. And so I wanted to make sure that we had time with our guest here today and not have to worry about the holidays quickly approaching here. So let me introduce to you, I have Lawrence Wagner here with Spark Mindset. He is the CEO of Spark Mindset, and Spark Mindset is a EdTech learning platform that's preparing middle school and high school students for the cybersecurity industry. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Great, wonderful. And I know an important part of your mission is really serving low income kids of color, girls,
Yes.
because they've kind of traditionally been left out of that career field. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's one of the reasons.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to just be with you here today because I'm an online mom, and most of the parents in this group are now online parents. Some of them it was by choice, and others they got pulled into it kind of reluctantly during the COVID-19 remote schooling crisis that we just went through. But our kids they're really into tech right now. And so, but we use it. I use it all the time. I love technology. I love, meeting people through technology. I love doing my business online, communicating with people online. But when it comes to the tech side and how it actually works, I don't know a lot about it. I don't understand it. I know in theory it's important to me. If you've ever had your bank account hacked or your email hacked, I think we all understand that aspect of how important cybersecurity is. But we don't really know how it operates in our daily lives, the careers associated with it. And so I'm looking forward to you educating me and our audience on why this is an important topic and why we really need to be thinking about this intentionally for our students. So before we really dig into Spark Mindset and the work you're doing, tell us a little bit, because you're a military veteran and you haven't been doing this ed tech stuff forever. So tell us about your career, your personal journey, and how you got to this place doing this work.
Yeah. The reason working with low income students is important to me is because I come from that community. I come from the projects of Cleveland, Ohio. And, I didn't have many options. I knew college wasn't an option for me when I was in high school. I didn't like school. I was tired of school, but I joined the military. I joined the military coming straight out of high school. I did 8 years in the Army. I did the first Gulf War, and that gave me, it grounded me into like grit and leadership and accomplishing a mission, and started that journey that I can do anything I put my mind to it. So after the military, I went to college, and so, but I started off actually working at a factory. So I was working at a factory for about a year, and then one day I was like, I don't want to do this, right? And so I was in school, so I would actually go to the factory from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. and then go to school right afterwards. And one day an internship came open, and no one took it because they thought it was free. And I took it because I hated what I wanted to do, and I took a chance. Well, the internship turned out to pay more money than I was making at the factory. I got into computers. I did 20 years. I have 20 years experience. I came out here in 2006, got a job at Schriever with the Missile Defense Agency in 2007. I went from being like a PC tech to project manager, cybersecurity, sysadmin, and realized that these careers, I didn't see a lot of people who looked like me, and people who were from my community needed these jobs, right? They needed to be exposed to this career because it can actually propel them out of poverty just like it did me.
So just a note of clarification, when Lawrence says Schriever, so that's in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We both are Colorado residents and live in Colorado Springs, and we are a military-centric community. We have many installations here, and the U.S. Space Force, which sometimes gets jokes and laughs when we talk about it, but it's very serious. It's an actual branch of our military now. And the Air Force Academy just graduated their first grads into the Space Force. So this is really an important industry in my community, and not just for our military, but all the industry that supports the military here in Colorado Springs and Colorado and all across the world. So just wanted to point that out when Lawrence talks about, he came here, this is a military town, and we think a lot about space and the military and the industry that supports all that. So so you decided, you worked in the industry, and then you knew you weren't seeing people that look like you. But why, as parents and educators, we hear about STEM and, engineering and math, and we know that's important. But economically, like, why should we be funneling these kids into these career paths? What does it look like for them as, an outcome, financially, those kinds of things? Why do we want our kids doing this kind of work?
Well, the average cybersecurity expert makes $78,000 a year. A kid coming out of high school can make up to $55,000 a year.
Wow.
And this is without a college degree. This is with industry certifications, like a CompTIA Net Plus and Security Plus certification. At minimum, they'll make $40,000, and that's still coming out as an 18-year-old. And so we don't point our kids into these career fields. We're doing an injustice because they're also a huge shortage. So there will be 3.5 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs by 2021. The industry is growing by 12% every single year, and it's anticipated to do that until 2025. So these jobs are not going to go anywhere as long as we continue to have IoT devices. And so what an IoT device is like, think about your refrigerator that has a computer chip in it, or think about your thermometer that sets the temperature through Wi-Fi. Like, that's an IoT device. And as long as you have these devices, your cell phone, your computers, you're going to have cybersecurity people trying to hack into your system. And so that this job is not going to go away. It's lucrative, and we need to begin to introduce our kids to this at a younger age.
That's amazing. I mean, we think about technology, and we don't. I think we take for granted how embedded it is into everything we do. I mean, you're talking about my refrigerator, or my smart TV, or this, thing that I carry around that never leaves me. It's so important and it's in, you know, a growing field, and there's a shortage. And one of our parents already just mentioned, Lori Cooney mentioned, she said salary is a great incentive. You know, I didn't realize that a high school grad with the proper credentials could, you know, start their career and making good money right out of high school.
Right.
That's incredible. So I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I think it's going to open a lot of eyes for parents and educators out there. So tell us a little bit about Spark Mindset and the programs that you're offering. Your website is sparkmindset.com. So if parents out there or educators want to check it out while we're talking, you can do that. But tell us about, you know, what do you offer for individual families, and then schools, and, you know, different programs out there.
So right now, we're offering our remote camps where students can come online and begin to learn about cybersecurity. So like even in our first camp, we talk about things that they will need for the rest of their lives. We talk about what careers they can go into. We talk about internet safety, because do you know, like 1 out of 5 students are being approached by a stranger when they're playing their games, when they're playing like anything online, and they're in these chat rooms. So we talk about internet safety and how they should have an alias. We talk about viruses and how like games are not free, and if you download a game to your parents' computer or their phone, most likely you may be leaving them open to some kind of ransomware or some kind of virus. We talk about ethics and cyberbullying and the effects of that, and how not to do that, password protection, about allowing people to have your passwords. So that's what we start off with, just a taste to get them interested, but then we continue to progress on. So then we get them foundations in networking, and then foundations in cybersecurity. So that's what we do for our middle school. And we partner with junior achievement. So in our second, third, and fourth camp, we're providing financial literacy for our students as part of our camps. For our high schools, we have a 2-year program. On that 2-year program, the first year we're preparing them for the Net Plus certification. So after the first year, we're saying we're going to get you an industry credential. During this time, we provide you with mentors. Again, we do financial literacy as well, but then we're working with industry to get them internships, right? Because one of the things along with the credentials is you need some kind of experience, and if we can provide you with internships while they're in high school, that's awesome, right? And then that second year, we teach them Security Plus. So basically, like we said, when we prepare them to come into these career fields, making this amount of money, we prepare them, what we think about the whole child. So they have soft skills, financial literacy, and technical skills when they're coming out of high school.
That's awesome. I love that you think about, you know, it's great that you're teaching them kind of the ins and outs of the industry, but then also treating them as these whole human beings, that it's not enough to get them the credential if you send them out into the world and they don't know how to manage their money or invest it, those kinds of things, which I think is really important. And the fact that you're partnering with Junior Achievement, I think, says a lot about your mission. You talk a lot about you have values that as Spark Mindset operates, that you believe in, and I love them, and I think they're really important considering the conversations that we're having in the country about you know, race and equity and those kinds of things. And you talk about ownership, inclusion, equity, resiliency, and collaboration. Can
Right.
you talk a little bit about that, why you felt that was important to include that in the work that you do?
Yeah, so a lot of times when we teach people on getting a job or doing anything that they care about, like we don't teach them about ownership, because when you own something, right? That means I'm gonna do something to the best of my ability. I'm not gonna make excuses. I'm gonna find ways around it. Like when I need to like accomplish a task because I own it, like I'm gonna figure out how to get it done. And some of that may mean I have to ask someone. Some of that I may have to look it up. I may have to do like some research on my own, but really owning that project that you take on as it's your own. For me, the biggest thing is um, inclusion, right? Like I believe that people should be able to come to a place and be their authentic self, like their whole self. The only time I feel like that's a problem is when your whole self infringe on the rights of someone else. But other than that, everyone, you know, no matter your age, gender, your sexual orientation, and that includes people with disabilities. We've had people who've worked on our projects that have autism, and we've had people who have come through our camps with special needs. So we try to look out for these things. Of the conversation, and so diversity is a byproduct of equity. And so if you create rules and place where everyone's treated the same, right? If you have inclusion and you have equity, you're going to have diversity. I don't have to look for diversity. I don't have to ask for diversity. Like when, when I, and when you look at my board and you see diverse people on there, it's because I don't sacrifice talent for diversity, right? I'm like, or I look for talented people, right? And then because I create an environment of inclusion and equity, we get diverse group of people. And so, and then being resilient and grit, like, I mean, I played into COVID. So when COVID hit, all of our in-person camps shut down. And then the schools that we were working with, they were like having problems on what they were going to do. So for 3 months, we didn't talk to anyone, right? We was busy figuring out how we were going to teach this. I started watching Tilly's show because I didn't know how to do things online. I started going to like webinars. I started going to different things to see how we can like help our kids because we couldn't help them the way we used to. And so that's being resilient. And then transparency, I think that, collaboration, like nothing can happen without someone else. Like I didn't get to where I'm at right now without the help of my community and the people who surround me. Like these stories of like you can get somewhere by yourself are not true. And so with Spark, I can only do a piece of the puzzle. Like we do technical stuff. That's what we do really well. And we partner with other people to do other things well. And then that's how our students are taken care of.
I love that. And I think, I know that's really an important lesson that for me that's come out of all of this is, we value the partnerships, the teamwork, the collaboration it takes to get our kids everything that they need to be successful and reach their full potential. And that idea that you do it all on your own it's just a fallacy. And
Right.
so I love that. And I love that you instill that into the curriculum. And that's kind of the message that you're sending out to kids. In the hopes, I think, that they're developing their own student agency and their own voice in their education and as they, start to explore their career paths. Talk a little bit about what a course looks like, or that, what's a class look like? What's the flow of the course? I know you do game-based learning, so what does that look like? And then when you're able to do in-person instruction, you use VR, virtual reality. How does that work?
All right, so yes, first I'm going to talk about the games. So the VR, what it does is it takes abstract concepts of cybersecurity and makes it easy and fun for kids to understand, right? So like we 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 create games around passwords. We create like the OSI model, right? So we created spaceships where kids can like go to the different levels of the spaceships and solve different puzzles of what that looks like. And what that does, it gives them that cognitive remembrance of um, what they're doing and what they will actually be doing in real time. So like if I was a school and I didn't have the equipment, well, through our games, we can actually teach them how to actually do that in real time. And so one of the things that we're also looking at doing, because we know that not everyone can use the VR, even when we go in person. We are also moving some of our games to augmented reality. So in that way, people can actually use their phones. And so it helps with accessibility because we know that like not every kid can afford or not every school can afford VR goggles, but we know that almost every family has a phone or a tablet that they can use. And so we really want to be able to have our kids have access to the games. Um, so what a course looks like is we provide an in-person camp. We provide a lecture. So a lecture can be like 15 minutes, and then wherever lecture that we're doing is reinforced by a game. And so they're like they get to learn in multiple ways. We don't believe in one style fits all. So you get to learn from someone talking, you get to learn from like playing the games, and then they have activities that they do with their class groups, like presentations on cyberbullying or things like that. So they're like being taught in multiple different ways. They also play like games and create a network using paper and scissors and like artistic things. So we look at all of those things. In our remote environment, we teach for like 20 to 25 minutes, and we put the kids in breakout rooms. And so in those breakout rooms, they are doing activities, like I just said, different activities. They talk amongst each other. They research a career that they may think is important. And each day they have a breakout room. Each day they have an activity. Um, and that's because they need to be able to still do some kind of social and emotional learning. And so the breakout rooms allow them to interact with other kids. And we have a training aid facilitator who facilitates those breakout rooms. And so um, there's always a lecture, but then there's always a breakout room. There's always an activity for them to either do with someone else or to present. So we make them present also do presentations, right? So like you have sixth graders doing presentations to other people in the class. Again, we knew that no one wanted to listen to me or anyone else talk for an hour or an hour and a half. Like, how do you get these kids like actively doing something?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to sit in on one of your classes, and it was great. Lawrence led the lecture part, and I learned a lot just about like the technical acumen that these kids need to know for these careers. But then they went into a breakout room, and they actually did videos on TikTok.
Yes.
So I love that you're using the technology they're already using. They're already familiar with it. There wasn't one kid in that class that hadn't used TikTok already. So they were excited about it. They were like, yeah, I could do that. And I love that you're using a multi-sensory approach. Hear it, see it, do it, tactile kinds of things for students, because we know that's, evidence-based learning practices, which I think are helpful for students. Talk a little bit about the credentials that the kids get. Now, that's a 2-year program to be able to get the credentialing. So that's for your, like, a junior or senior in high school?
Sophomore.
Wow.
So We sophomore, junior, and the reason, I mean, we could have junior, senior. We really try to get them at the sophomore level, because our mindset is that first year you get the CompTIA Net Plus certification, you start your internship. That junior year, you finish and you get your CompTIA Security Plus certification, and then you have a senior year to actually also be an intern. So basically, you now have work experience, you have credentials, so it makes that transition to the career, and hopefully the people that you're interning with, you're just transitioning into that career path. And so we want to give them time enough to actually get some of that work experience while they're in high school. So that's why we try to start at the 10th grade, that sophomore, and we think they're mature enough. I think sometimes we don't give kids credit. We're like, that's too hard. I was like, no, it's not too hard. It's too hard because you're telling them it's too hard, right? But if you actually like encourage them and show them and tell them like and just be there for them, like they will show you that they can do it. All they need is the encouragement, sometimes a little push, but they need someone to actually invest in them, and you'll be surprised of the results that you'll get.
I think we see a lot, especially for our high school kids. They rise to the occasion
Right.
when we set the expectations for them, and instead of operating in this, I don't know, holding them back or fear that they can't handle it. Let's set the bar, and they do. They continually surprise us. I guess it's not a surprise because a lot of us believe that these kids can accomplish, what we teach them to do. So when you say they're interning, what kind of work might they be doing once they get these, beginning credentials?
And I say it depends with the company, right? So the company, like when we first was like deciding to build this out, we talked to Kaiser Permanente, and I remember they're saying, we don't have interns for high school students, but what we could do is we can create projects for them to do, right? That's customized for these students. And for us, we have interns, and they were in high school, have had interns for the last 3 years that have been high school students. We've had them build games, we've had them develop curriculum, we had they've all learned something. They haven't been doing like social media work, right? It has been something that's gonna like teach them about the industry that they can learn. And I can say, partnering with the PBBEA, I think I said that right, and the companies that these high school students go through as part of the cybersecurity internships, they're all doing industry standard projects, right? That's going to teach them something about the industry.
Wow, that's incredible. So do students need any previous computer courses, or do they need a certain background knowledge before they can start taking your courses? Or, could they be like me, a total noob, and drop into your class and be successful?
Yeah, so we've learned that the reason we start younger is not because they can't do it. It's because I now don't have to break through some of the stereotypes that they've been taught in middle school. Like for girls, right? Girls are not exposed to this, or they don't think they can do it. And so they think they have to have a ton of math, right? And so that's why we start in middle school, is to give them exposure. But I create the program for someone to come in with no experience, right? You can come in straight off the high school street and be like, hey, I want to do this. And I'm like, yes, you have an interest, we can train you. So no, they don't have that experience. Again, the reason we start younger is because it's really about exposure and those things. But because we had an intern one time, and that's where this kicked off. We had an intern. She was a young lady, and she wanted to do cybersecurity, but I couldn't break past the I'm not good at math. And so she ended up like quitting because she couldn't get past I'm not good at math. And I was like, there's so many jobs in cybersecurity that doesn't have to do with math, but I couldn't break past that. So
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, the unfortunate part is we've kind of scripted some things for students and told them, you know, you can only be this or you can only be that. And if we don't get to these kids early enough, we set them on a path that, you know, had they been exposed to courses like yours, it might have opened doors to them that they hadn't considered. And, you know, and I think it's important that you've made it accessible to people. I've been surprised, you know, during this big switch to remote learning, online learning. I've talked to several parents that have reached out to me and said, you know, we were intentionally a screen-free family. Like, you know, they had kids in middle school with no cell phone. They chose schools that were, you know, not tech heavy. They were being very intentional. And then all of a sudden, the whole world fell apart and they really needed that. And these kids needed really basically like computer one-on-one. That they needed to learn about, you know, all those things that RAM and memory and all of these things that we kind of take for granted because we operate in this world. But there are families out there, either by choice or, you know, their circumstances where technology is not a part of their everyday life. And so I applaud you for thinking strategically and knowing that you've really got to start early with some of these kids. You also have a Facebook page, Stepping into STEM. Why did you feel like you wanted to communicate with folks at that level?
yeah, so we started stepping into STEM because one, I saw parents being through this COVID. Now they're gaining access to digital divide. So now they have internet and they have tablets and they have things that they've never had. And so I wanted to expose parents to different STEM career fields that's going on. So I'm a believer in that not everyone's going to want to do cybersecurity. I know I know that, you know, we teach it, but Spark's overall mission is to break the cycle of poverty in low-income communities, and I know STEM is a big factor into that. So I want to be able to introduce parents to other STEM career fields by other companies, by other people. Again, we talk about collaboration, right? And so if my focus is on helping the kid and that child doesn't decide that they want to do cybersecurity, what are other STEM career fields out there that their parents can get them involved in? And we also teach those soft skills. So I bring in companies and organizations. We had a panel on financial literacy. We're going to do some panels on mental health, some social and emotional learning. Because again, I'm thinking about how do I make this person a successful adult coming out, and again, how do I make them successful in society and in life, and can start a generation of wealth in their family. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. And that it's Step into STEM on Facebook. And once we're done here, I'll make sure I link to it in the comments of this thread that's going with this broadcast, so folks can check that out. One of the things that you have on your website as you're talking about the courses that at first I was like, you teach the kids to think like a hacker.
yes.
What does that mean? I'm not sure. I want my kid to think like a hacker, but what does that mean? What does that do for kids?
So a lot of times when we're in cybersecurity, you're either attacking or you're defending, right? So thinking like a hacker is I can begin to think like people who are breaking in, like who are hacking into systems. Like, what is that mindset does it takes to do that? Because that's the only way you're going to be able to defend someone who's attacking. I mean, it's hard, right? So someone who defended for a company only has to think of every single way to stop a hacker from getting in. If I'm a hacker, I have to think of one way, right? So if I'm not thinking like how that other person is thinking, how can I prevent them from getting into our system?
Interesting. Yeah, I can't. I know my bank account has been hacked twice in probably the last 10 years, and I'm like, if these people are obviously so smart, if only they'd use that, their talent, those smarts for good instead of, going after my bank account, how great would the world be? So when I saw you saying, let's teach them to think like a hacker, I'm like, well, what does that mean? But I think so many of us know kids that are really smart, but they may be in school and they're kind of checked out and they're not performing to their potential. And how many times maybe they don't turn in their work, but they can take a computer apart, or they can, build a car from, the ground up, or, they're just those kids, and we're not reaching them. So I hope that the work that you're doing will really reach some of those kids that we just know we're just failing them because we haven't broke down the wall. We haven't gotten through to them and sparked that kind of passion in them. I think would be great. And I know just from sitting in on your courses, it was boys in that course, and they were a little quiet, but once they got talking about the lessons, they really opened up. And to me, that was exciting as a mom, because that's where we live, is when our kids get excited and passionate about a topic. That's when we know we're doing the right thing and setting them on the right course.
Yeah,
Any
so
any like closing thoughts or things that you'd like to share with, because I know this is available for families, and I know you talk to schools,
mhm.
but if a parent or an educator, they know kids that that need what you're providing, what do they need to do, where do they need to go to get more information?
So I'm going to talk on one point about what you just said. So the reason this means so much to me is because I was one of those kids that school didn't, right? And I was like, when I took the ASVEB test, I can get any job in the Army, but no one really invested in me in school, right? And so like I did enough to get by, right? And so that's like reaching kids and trying to do that and spark their exciting is because I lived that. And so that's why that's so important to me. But if you want to get in touch with me and Spark Mindset, you can reach us at www.sparkmindset.com/camps, or you can reach me at lawrence@sparkmindset.com. And I really want to talk to your parents who may not feel like that they can afford it. We just had 2 sponsors that paid for 20 kids to go through camp.
Wow.
We do partial scholarships for kids as well. And so please do not let that be a factor of you not reaching out to us, because we will find a way to get your child into this program if you can't afford it. Again, we target low income for a reason, and we will do everything in our power to make sure that your child has access to our camps.
That's amazing. And if you're watching out there and you are working with a philanthropy or a foundation, and you want to put your dollars to good work in lifting up students who might not have exposure to cyberspace careers or opportunities, please reach out to Lawrence, because he's doing important work. Lawrence, I want to thank you for joining us today, and I hope it got our parents thinking about kind of the STEM education that their kids are getting, and asking, is my kid being exposed to this? Because it's important, and it's a wonderful pathway for career and life. So I hope our parents will be thinking about that in the future. Our parents are saying thank you on Facebook, and we'll post links to Spark Mindset and Step into STEM Facebook group, so you all can connect with them as well. Thank you again, Lawrence. And
Thank you for having me.
it was our pleasure. Everyone have a happy and safe 4th of July, and we will see you next week here at Parent Support for Online Learning, and we'll have more episodes of the Parent Exchange. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.